of all, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And today we will try to discuss openly, to discuss about the pros and cons, the do's and don'ts of the process, maybe to reach out to some conclusions and to some clarity in terms of the future roadmap. Well, actually, from a regulatory point of view, I believe that we are okay. We have Article 11 from Energy Strategy 2030, which mentions the need to develop these smart grids. The Law 139 defines the notions, the terms of smart equipment and smart grid. Article 7 in this document defines the ways to install these equipment. Welcome, Mr. Sergio, by the way. As we were saying, we do have this regulatory framework, but still there's some barriers. My first question for Mr. Ruslan. Mr. Kasiko, you represent ADD Group, developer and producer of smart metering solutions, which was created in 1992. So we have important people in Moldova already for a long time. The company has about 400 employees, and they produce meters and other appliances. You provide different hardware, software tools, including energy meters, connectors, and applications for connection of this data. Your company is also known abroad, Moldovan borders, or maybe mostly it's well known abroad. Yes, you're right. Well, what are still the barriers from your point of view for it to be present on the local market? Is there the resistance, reluctance from the authorities, from the operators, from the community, in terms of accepting for us that it's time to change? Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your question. I believe that we've faced some barriers in the past which didn't allow us to install the smart meters in the Republic of Moldova. Maybe we didn't have arguments, justifications from economic point of view, but given that we are aimed to go to to join the European Union, and we want to focus on energy efficiency. And also, as it was said during the day, there are also some goals which are not related only to the European Union, but also to the energy security of the society. We can currently see that our government, our society, the suppliers, the distribution operators, they like a lot this idea. We maybe will envisage or foresee some barrier from the society which will accept slightly harder, slightly slower the smart metering process, because smart metering creates possibilities to quantify the energy in real time, to measure the energy consumption in real time conditions with a lot of accuracy. And this must, first of all, that some consumers will receive their real bills based on their real consumption volumes. Because when we talk about the smart meter, it has a very high sensitivity, and when we talk about a charger for the smartphone, which consumes very few energy, very less, not so much energy, this consumption is registered also. This has been accepted in several countries in Europe and across the world, and this gives us the possibility to rationalize the energy consumption, to use multiple tariffs which are different at particular moments of the day. and this will change the consumption pattern and will lead to savings and rationalized use of energy. The idea is a very good one, the one that we are putting now in place. Our government does, and it is very important to mention that we have this experience in this sense from the European Union. We need to inform as much as possible this society in order for the people to accept positively these changes, because the changes are indeed very, very good, very positive, and these lead us to a safer future in terms of energy. Thank you very much. So if we conclude, we shall understand that as of today, we already have the openness of the authorities, we have openness from the operators. The only problem is with the customers. In order to make them to have a clarity, more clarity in this sense. I think yes, because we had some promoting activities, some advertising related to the pilot project that was recently launched. And we can see the reaction of society in relation to different platforms. And there are some categories of people that do not accept this, or they think that there will be a negative trend saying that they will have higher bills. From this point of view, we need to inform the society in a very detailed way about the benefits of this process. Yes, you're right. Madam Peritatku mentioned about the pilot project implemented with support of UNDP, Moldova, and the Italian government. And I wanted to ask Mr. Petra and Mr. Chukula, those who interact firstly with the final customers, those who are beneficiaries of this pilot project. Mr. Petra, for Premier Energy, this pilot program, is it actually a challenge or an opportunity? And from your point of view, will it help us to be closer to the differentiated tariffs or prices, or it's for us still a long way till that moment? Thank you very much for the invitation. Let's see. Now, what we are doing, it's not for Premier Energy, but our effort, the effort of the government, is for the customer, for the energy user in Moldova, for the citizens. And this is meant to bring more benefits for the consumer, for the customer, and also, as Madam Peritatku mentioned, the pilot project needs to be concluded with analysis of costs and benefits, which will estimate the feasibility and efficiency of this pilot project and the efficiency of the process of installing smart meters in Moldova. Therefore, benefits will be not only for the customer in terms of reducing the bills for electricity or bills or costs, and when we talk about the differentiated tariffs that will apply, but this pilot project is a step towards implementation of differentiated tariffs. Moreover, we've had several legal amendments, and we only have to implement some secondary elements in order to put this in practice. We are looking forward for an National Energy Regulatory Agency to mobilizing in relation to the drafts we are talking about. If we talk about data accuracy of data used for billing, this is also very important. When we talk about differentiated tariffs, we talk about amending or changing the behavior in the final customers, which is meant to help us finally to have a system and the load, a curve in the load, which will be as efficient as possible, because we have a very distorted one currently. And this will also help us in improving the distribution services, quality of services. We talk about services which are delivered when the customer will, the supply will, the customer will find out that have been disconnected or have lost the connection to the energy grid. They will not have to contact the supplier anymore. We'll have this find out about this in real time. This is about the low voltage, maybe for future for the high voltage grids. And we also talk about financial resources, about funds which are needed, and if these are mobilized, this will help us to mobilize and program and develop programs in terms of CATEX. Yeah. POPEX. We talk about different elements in Europe, for example, where information from the smart grids is used for predictive maintenance, and this helps considerably the system. And these are actually benefits which will finally benefit or be on the side of the final customer. The project is actually at its first stage, and we as Premier Energy Distribution, we've installed the first 3,000 meters. We are now at the moment when we ensure communication connection of the meters with the remote meters reading. The next stage, as Madam State Secretary said, is to purchase the other 32,000 for the other distributors, so that later when we switch to another important stage, because the meter without data storage and processing system is not useful at all. So the distributors and suppliers of electricity need information in this sense for these processes. That's another stage of the pilot project, and later on the practical elements that will be acquired during this project will be used for bringing financial elements, so for developing the cost-benefit analysis. And so this is very important, and I want to thank Ministry of Energy and UNDP, who have been so generous in offering this support for us. And I believe that there was never such a gift before provided to our users.
Thank you. By summarizing the list of advantages, I understand this is an opportunity for Red Nord. What is the stage you are at, and is this an opportunity or a challenge for you? Hello, thank you for the invitation. We look at all innovation as an opportunity from the beginning. Currently, in ADD, we have a small project for transformation. The tests are showing that the data accuracy is very high, so the reading of the meters is okay. We are discussing about a small project which does not show all the situation that could be applicable for the national level. We will see how the energy will perform. My colleague mentioned the advantages. We are not only discussing about delivering data from the field to the operator, supplier, and the consumer, but we're also discussing about the quality of electricity, about reacting in a timely manner. And this means that the consumer has different benefits from remote reading. Because oftentimes people just think that they will have accurate data. This is not we're discussing about. The dispatch center can react in due time. Fraud can be prevented, and so on. So there are a lot of benefits from remote smart meter reading. Thank you, Mr. Dragomir. Orcolia Lux is offering automation solutions, and this is based on Avant solutions and for low and medium converters, switchers. What do you bring to this area? Hello, thank you for this invitation. I would like to express or mention our experience in this field. SCADA is an English term, system control and data acquisition. So we have both control and data acquisition. So this SCADA abbreviation is used at all industry levels. This is not only in the energy sector, it's also in robotics, in satellites businesses. So even when satellites are sent to Mars, we are using SCADA because we are controlling what crater they are going to. We have graduated from the technical university and we have developed industrial automatization at the international level. As a market in Moldova, we don't have industrial robots with SCADA technology, but we have widely implemented 4.0 industry. What does this mean in telemetry? We don't only have remote monetization of factories, but also remote control on robots and machinery. And if we are promoting these European ideas related to the directives, the European market is already saturated. We are implementing it in Moldova. And if needed, we are using the 4.0 certification, which involves mandatory remote control monitoring of the production and so on. And we are going further to 5.0, which is the recovery of electricity. How does this take place? How can we get certified in the recovery of electricity? You know that you have a swing in your home and it goes up and down. This is based on inertia. Even if we have a car and we push the brake, the energy goes to the brakes. 5.0 industry means that we recover the energy back to the grid where we took the energy from. We are in this area of industrial automatization and we promote the recovery of energy. And I had prepared the photo with industrial automatization made in Moldova with industrial robots. This is an industrial robot for cardboard boxes. This is in Italy. We have projects all over the world, in the US, in China, in Germany, and we are implementing industrial automatization at a high scale. And this is certified 4.0. There are international integrators, Italian or German, that are not all compliant with this certification. And by digitalizing the remote control and monitoring system, we are bringing 4.0 from the European Committee, and they are compensating a certain percentage if we digitalize the production line. This is a benefit for the factory. So we need to take in this idea. And when you are asking what technologies are you bringing through these SCADA systems and industrial automatization, remote control, monitoring, and 5.0 recovery of electricity. And the actors in the energy market need to bring it back. This is what's related to industrial automatization and SCADA. You mentioned several countries, inclusively European countries. Do you have projects in Moldova? SCADA systems in the energy field are being implemented in Moldova. This is being implemented in renewable energy, wind energy, and photovoltaic system. These windmill parks, these generators, should be monitored and controlled remotely by system operators like Premier Energy, Red Nord. I have three players on the market. So we are supplying a service that was taken from the industry of robots. And we are offering this service ready-made parks with SCADA systems. Thank you very much. For sure that the replacement of traditional meters with smart meters involves some costs. Mr. Mihai, as an expert in the digitalization of the energy sector, you know this from a technical point of view and from the point of view of the skills of the human resources in the Republic of Moldova. From your point of view, how can we cope with this challenge? The National Integrated Plan for Energy and Climate has several measures, inclusively implementing measures for advanced metering solutions to better respond to the demand of remote metering. And according to this roadmap for the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Environment, this should be implemented by 2030. And according to the estimations, we need a budget of 43.7 million euro. Can we do this? First of all, hello everyone. Maybe I think we could manage to do all of this because the first step for a smart grid, because we are discussing not only between specialists but also in the society about this. This means an interaction between three fields. We need an interdisciplinary approach. From my observations, approximately 20% is energy and 80% communication and data processing. Because this metering system means that we need to collect data and then process it, because if we only collect it, we don't have added value. If we are discussing about national plan for energy and climate, we are discussing about energy efficiency, and it's important to have a consumption culture. We know that before everything was very cheap, inclusively the gas and the light was on all the time, the gas was used all the time, and in order to be able to do this, we need to involve all parties, not only the distributors or the suppliers, but also the consumers. They also have to be educated for this. There are many producers that are offering different solutions. And I could quote the minister when he was asked in one interview whether the tariffs for energy are not high. And he said that there are now high tariffs. We need to have a culture of consumption. So we need to offer an alternative calculation to consumers, because if we have calculations every quarter of an hour, we can show the consumer that if they turn on the washing machine during the night, they would have a different consumption and so on. Besides this, we are discussing about the load for the grid, and Moldoelectrica is only involved in transportation, but they are also involved. The voltage is very high, and in order for them to cope with the quality parameters that are required, so this will have to be offered so that the home appliances can function properly, because if they are not, the fridge will be broken and so on. And we have different activities that we need to manage to do, because it's the first time we are trying to do this at the national level. Attempts to have remote meter reading have been present before, but the idea was to solve a small bundle of issues. Now we have a big problem that we need to solve. But this happens only if we can, if the consumers will understand, because we cannot discuss with those who would like to steal energy, and will no longer be able to do this because we will catch them. So you are saying that we need to focus on the communication with the consumers. Indeed, probably the perception of the society will be very important, because now we are using funds from grants. And as my colleague said from Premier Energy, this is like a gift. But we will not have such gifts forever. And we will need to change the regulation so that when people see that the benefits are higher than the costs, they will do this. But investing in energy, in technology, just because it is wow, it's no use. But if we see that there are many things that we can use, we'll probably have success. Mr. George Girje, you, just like the others present here, have more clients in Europe than in the Republic of Moldova. I assume you can correct me if I'm wrong. And you are offering services for software development on demand. From what I learned, you managed to implement project on the digitalization in farming, the smart house, and so on. From your point of view, what are the biggest challenges in integrating this system with the electricity grid or the gas system? Because I understand you have plans inclusively in implementing smart meters in gas systems. Yes, hello everyone. Regarding the challenges, if we are discussing about the electricity smart meters and we want everyone to have this, we have the law on the differentiated tariffs. But we developed these models for smart meters because we discussed internally in HM. We discussed with Aleko and Ruslan. We had a heated discussion. And after listening to what they said, I found out that Ruslan said that they are not focused on Moldova. They are mostly working for other markets. And Alek is saying that they have success with this in Moldova, but they are purchasing this from China. And I was upset. I said we need to have a module that is made in Moldova, and that we should be able to have maintenance for this and to bring added value to contribute to the digitalization. So this is the main idea. It's very interesting. We will find out what you were discussing about. Everything started from the fact that digitalization is ongoing in the area of smart metering. And we were discussing about how could we contribute or how could we create a consortium. And during these discussions, we discussed to have a consortium with Aleko and also with Ruslan. And maybe they will think about using our models for their meters for Moldova and for other countries also. And this way we can help each other and bring added value and can contribute to the digitalization in our country. I will have a digression. In 2016, when I went to the water and sewage company, I tried to have this um, smart metering. After I used these remote reading meters, I found out that there is ATD group which was not very interested on the local market. Now I understand that you had these heated discussions. Mr. Ruslan, will you be more present on the local market, or you are more interested in having a good name outside? Yes, of course, we are interested in the local market. And actually, we implemented a pilot project in 2013 for energy smart meters. But probably at that time, the economic conditions were not favorable for mass investment for rollout of smart metering. And now we have these favorable conditions. This is determined by the internal market, by the decisions of the government, but also this is due to the external factors, the war in Ukraine, which made us look towards European distribution networks. Now we have already delivered smart meters for electricity at this first stage of the project launched by UNDP. And we are monitoring this project with high interest. We really want to have smart metering in the Republic of Moldova. We are present in 35 countries with more than 8 million electricity meters. Now we have launched a new product. This is a water meter. And what you mentioned about 2016, it's not that we were not interested in that project, but we did not have the product. Now we have it, and I will tell you a bit later about this. And I'm coming back to the discussions that we had with Gheorghe and Alecu. They were not related to our presence on the local market or to the lack of initiatives for collaboration. Just that smart metering has this important component, communication. There are different communication technologies. We are using the communication technologies on the distribution line. The electricity line is a source of communication between the meters that are accumulating data and the software. So we are using this technology. It's been more than 20 years since we started using it. It is good from the point of view of cost and efficiency. And in most of the EU, approximately 85% of the technologies that are used in the European Union for smart metering projects are based on PLC, on distribution networks. And this is where we had discussions about the type of technology that should be used for the Republic of Moldova. It's not about the origin or where these models are produced in China or Moldova. because we are a local producer and we are producing this in Moldova. We have a closed circle, but there are different opinions on the market on which is the best technology for smart metering for electricity. Some are saying that this is PLC, others are saying that this is short distance radio frequency. Others say that there are other technologies that are better for longer ranges. And this is what we were discussing about what is the best technology for the Republic of Moldova. We have experience for 8 million meters in 35 countries, and in 99% of these projects we are using PLC technology. It is confirmed that it is working and it is optimized. But we discussed with Georgia that indeed 1.5 months after the discussion, yes, indeed 1.5 months after the discussion, we analyzed the market and we saw that within 12 months, the pilot project aimed to have 35,000 meters, and we decided that you are using PLC. Aleco says that LoRa is feasible. We did this in a record time, 1.5 months. This is the module that you are seeing. Why LoRa? Because there are areas where it's difficult to reach, and you can have a mobile antenna or traditional antenna, and you can have the transmission of data. And everything is related to the cost. So you need to take an old meter, throw it away, and take a new one. But here we can just replace the module in the meter. In the end, the suppliers will receive the data, but without additional cost. So that the others understand what is the difference between LoRa Advanced and PLC, we will go to the other members. Mr. Dragomir, the implementation of smart meters in a wide range and in different locations involves technical challenges. Ensuring communication between the meters and central data systems and the security of data are technical obstacles. How can we overcome this from your point of view? Because you were also part of that discussion. I will start by describing the projects that we have already implemented. And I will ask you to display the presentation so that it's more clear. We are focused on demand, on the issues. As we say in the school, first we have the task, and then we are trying to solve this task. We had different challenges, and this is why we approached all possibilities from technical and economical points of view. And here we have a brief description. What type of telemetry can we have? How can we transmit data? So this can be through radio or through electricity lines. Well, this is also fiber wires, but this is something different. And the radio can be divided in GSM. We know the mobile phones. The advantage is that we have national coverage. We have 3 or 4 operators. The second is wireless M-Bus. This is regulated in the European directive. This is dedicated for remote meter reading. This means 300 meters. we also have drive-by and walk-by, whether you have the reader in your packet or you are in the car and this reads the data. We need staff, transportation, salaries, and so on. And we are going to the next technology, LoRaWAN. It's not just a LoRa. We have Sigfox, probably NB-IoT. But this is a new technology that is using an unlicensed connection of 868 megahertz, and the distance is 15 kilometers from the reader. So in this case, we have an antenna and a Wi-Fi, as we all have in our offices, but we have the LoRaWAN protocol, just like Wi-Fi. This is for data exchange. So these are the players on the wireless market. If you are discussing about wired transmission, as Ruslan mentioned, we have electricity lines, a PLC model. We also have this in our kitchen, for example. This has a limitation from the point of view of the electricity grid. There could be connections, so there could not be connections. So it depends on the electricity lines. We are mostly focused on the wireless area, LoRa or Sigfox. There are different players on the market. Sigfox is licensed, it has a subscription, and LoRaWAN is free of charge. If we are focused on LoRaWAN, we have 15 kilometers distance for reading, and we have implemented some projects. And I will show you briefly what can we do and how can this remote reading be done. Not just for the electricity meter, but also for water, gas meters, and for heating, and for green energy.
Well, for the energy sources, the energy meter has infinite sources. We can send information from morning till evening. But what about the water meters? We need a battery. We have an issue in terms of source of the energy. For the metering, yes, we have. For the electricity, we have infinite access to energy, but for the others, that's not the case. So, from my point of view, we want to have this thing unified at a national level. All the indicators for water, for electricity, to have this unified in a single database. Why do we want this? Because the operator, for example, Mold Electrica or Premier Energy, they have their own reading soft. But well, softs are, since we've started to work in this field, since Unione Fenosa was created, for example. Now we have Premier Energy, but still, the softs are basically how they are. Maybe they are not compatible with the new technologies, or they might be changed, updated, but maybe we won't have a new soft developing this support, or Mr. Georgi or some others would give support in terms of developing a new servers to store all the data. So to have it compatible with all the softs and all these elements to be integrated on a single platform. Here we can see the smart metering through the radio GSM channel for using the national operators. I don't know if you can see very well, but we've had a project focused on the green energy, so wind energy and photovoltaic energy. So we are monitoring the energy meters remotely and we read the parameters that we need, but we focus on the GSM technology. Next, LoRaWAN technology, a different project. Yes, it's smart metering for electricity. Again, we have single-phase meters, and this project was implemented even in the campus of the technical university we have here. And in Botanica neighborhood in Chisinau, yes, we have it's a successful project. We have single phase meters in every room, and this reading is done every hour. Well, with the phones, maybe we have the issues. We have different altitudes, different regions where we can read or cannot. But we focus and we bring the network to the situation when it works and it gives us the results. Next, we have projects with water meters. We have projects that focus on 1,000 or 200 meters, and again, this ensures 100% reading. That's what has been implemented in Moldova, and now the most recent project is with the metering of the gas network in Moldova Gas. We have several branches, several subdivisions, and we do this per subdivision, and they purchase the meters. How they know? But again, we have these electronic products, and we can do this according to Made in Moldova technology. So we need to have smart metering according to the standards made in Moldova. Well, the answer to your question, how do we see the challenges in terms of cybersecurity and others? Yes, this can be solved. We have specialists with certificates in terms of security, advanced security systems. So we shall not invent the wheel, but just to be very careful, very attentive in this sense. From our point of view, with the experience in project implementation, but if you ask, are we ready? Yes, I tell you, we are ready, but this should be done, for example, via the university. If we ask the automatic department, what is SCADA? Do they know this or not? What is smart metering, cybersecurity, and so on and so forth? Well, we have the faculty that might know this concept, but we need to have projects or case studies in order for them to get more familiarized with this field, not to work privately in silo with our own forces. We need to join the forces. So from our point of view, we are ready to implement the smart metering. Well, of course, having our own point of view, our own position, which we're ready to share. Thank you very much. But if we talk about Socrates, whilst in one of his trial, where two participants were present and every participant had their own point of view, he said, "You are both right." So now, Mr. Mikhailov, I'll ask you to be Socrates now. Well, if we draw a line in terms of the remote reading technology, we would have two projects, LoRaWAN and the PLC. What are the pros and cons for every of these ones? And what do you think about the discussion that was quite hot? But Mr. Mikhailov said, please do not fight here also. Well, if we talk about that hot discussion previously, I believe that they are civilized and very good people, good specialists. I know them very well, and I know that the hard discussions between engineers happen very often, and often on Friday after working hours. Is it good to happen? Yes, because if it would not happen, if we would not discuss these possible or impossible things, we would not have reached the moment when we have all these technologies. So from my point of view, the team working in this project, which I'm part of, uh, I work with this team and I have the technical part. And at that moment when I've started, not all the employment elements were not launched yet. And we had different discussions, more or strong or not. I didn't discuss so strongly with Aleko, but with others in terms of LoRaWAN to understand what to do. Maybe to separate currently this thing into big groups. If we talk about LoRaWAN, actually that's part of a technology called low power wide area network. So it's a network which, under these modern conditions, has a high efficiency and low consumption, and could cover large areas of territory. So we have two types, LoRaWAN and SIGTech. These two elements are based on developed elements from a French company. These come from the working areas for secondary waves. So there are secondary waves, secondary bands, for example, which you might use like Wi-Fi. And we have narrowband IoT, and there is another technology, LTE-M, which has more than 40 years. The mobile internet we are enjoying, all of us. And this is related to the cell operator or mobile operator. All these four elements focus on customers which are get charged from battery. So for the gas, for example, it's thought to have this technology. For example, for cell operator or mobile operator, which is well developed because they should not think on saving on that because they need to have efficiency. This might work. They might work with a private company that have some PCBs developed maybe locally. They could think at everything. And there's also the side of electricity, which is more critical because we have a blackout. Now we're all lost. Because as long as this cell is present with the mobile operators, we will have connection with the outside world. But once the mobile network and the optic fibers is down, then we are lost. Uh, if if we don't have water, for example, for 2 days, we can go fetch water from the well. But if electricity is down, then we are lost or disconnected from the world. The fridge doesn't function, and different other appliances, so it's bad. That's why we focused on a stricter path. We had a possibility to study the experience from countries where we have the advanced smart metering at a more advanced stage, and they've started from 2011. They've gone through all the mistakes, and we try to avoid these mistakes because some mistakes include harder consequences, which are have bad results. And such things happened in Germany, where when they were ready to have a fast rollout, when they had serious consequences, and they involved international security at that moment, because they stopped everything and they needed 6 years again to start the process from the beginning. So the national security structure said you should stop here, set some new rules, and this was a incentive, a stimulation at the national level for a new start. Well, the main idea in my speech now is the gas network. We need to create a grid, a network which focuses on the distribution of gas or water, for example. We have the pipeline that supplies the water. We have the sewage system, but this is not metered. And we have the energy, the thermal energy, which is metered. But electricity only mostly comes to us. But there are also the users of photovoltaic grids, which might give something to the grid if they have a surplus. And those who produce the energy, they need to respond, to be liable, to be responsible for the energy they give, because they need to give quality energy, and the state is controlling this. So we need a system that will strictly control every kilowatt per hour, because the energy and the electricity supplier, well, according to the law, we have separated distribution operators, and when we say primary energy, well, we know that we have primary energy distribution, and the second company is the distributor. And in the north, we have Red Energy North and distributor, the supplier. So it's two parts. And besides that, we have two more options, which did not exist before. And if we let's take the mobile phone. We have a prepaid package. If we run out of minutes, we are cut from the network. But with the electricity, this does not happen this way. If you do not pay your bills, you risk at a particular moment to be disconnected from the grid. So at this moment, the team comes, they introduce themselves. I'm here to disconnect you from the grid, the electricity grid, because you've not paid it. So if you've paid meantime before we got to you, please show us a confirming document and we just leave. But if that's not the case, they just disconnect you from the grid and you stay in this situation until you do not pay the bill, the debt. But when we have the remote control, we will not have this case when the team comes to your door and disconnects you from the grid. And especially if we speak about the rural areas, this involves also some transportation costs, which are quite high. I am not allowed to talk about figures, but the amounts in terms of disconnections and reconnections to the grid are very high. So if we go beyond this cap in terms of costs for the disconnections and connection, will have a good yield return in the project because the projects are very good in this sense. But once we have the remote disconnection, we have this time critical element. Meaning in time, because on the phone, when you use the Kiwi device or any other device at the gas station, it takes a few minutes to reconnect you again to the network. So if for the electricity should be the same. If a person would go at 2 o'clock in the night to pay for the bill, then we would need to reconnect them to the grid again. But this might have some risks. Let's take, for example, some guy that might like to do some pranks on the network. They might just hack the network and try to disconnect the people to and from the grid. And there were also some cases when these agents, the officer, needed to come physically to disconnect the customers from the network. They would need to come physically and might get some physical injuries. Maybe the microphone was disconnected because the bill was not paid. Let's say if someone would pay the technical team and connect back the microphone. So this remote disconnection or connection is critical in time, but this needs to be secured because in advanced processes there are some risks. If it's physical, there are risks for the life, but if it's a remote, it's for cybersecurity. We might have some false data, some fake data, or information, because if, for example, in Britain there was an accident on the grid because there is strong wind, we have a lot of airlines, and these are mostly outdated. People just will get in the street and will not say, let's bring down the Red Nord or punish the Red Nord, but they will say government is the guilty one. They will protest against the government, starting from the local one and coming to the central one and even coming to Masons and so on. So we need some education in this sense also, but it's much to do. In that sense, we've conducted a study in terms of solutions, and we found out that for the volume of information that we need to collect once in an hour, we've divided the segments per 15 minutes each. And if we look at the group of meters that will mostly be embed the PLC, they need to look at the volume of data, because this goes beyond the volume of data that a mobile network would cover. So the meters between them and the other network should have a limit, or the big household consumers, because they would have different measuring elements. So we would use, they would use the M2M communication, machine communication. But once we use this remote metering according to the European standards, the mobile communications will not work. And we hope to have some LAN channels, because mobile communication give us best effort elements, but that's not the best case. So we've discovered that we are not the smartest one, but for example in Spain, where they've implemented very much this advanced smart metering technologies, and our manufacturer, local, they also contributed to this. They use the LAN channels for that. We've also developed some elements for trafficking. If we talk about the last mile of metering, we talk about household meters and some element which is remotely. Transformation station. So for this element from customer to transformation station, it is proposed to us to use some technologies like LoRaWAN or Sigfox. There is someone that promotes this. But the issue is that when we talk about distribution of water, thermal energy, water, and electricity, there's no issue. Because this might be easier brought to the European standard. But I've calculated for the electricity, at the electricity fairs, they presented LoRaWAN, but this is not for metering per hour. For example, in Germany, there's a lot of remote villages or areas where it was proposed to be used this infrastructure with meteor or weather sensors, and it was presumed for these sensors to read the meters, and this was okay. But PLC is supposed to already work in the European Union, and the Red North has done a study with another company, and all these lines were buried underground. And this was done very rapidly and very well. We've seen that this works. This is a modernization, but we've seen that Premier Energies has some remains from the Soviet infrastructure, and they installed this also in that aspect, in that case, and we've seen that it works. So we'll have some large channels borrowed from the national operators. Maybe the mobile lines will be like a reserve for us to have a higher resilience, because the relays already are elements of automation, and we need to have very well set automated channels. And next we will test the technology that will read in the residential buildings in Chisinau these meters, when we'll group these meters and they will be read through a serial interface. We have, for example, an iDomus company. They have tested the equipment manufactured by them, and they understood that it worked very well. I cannot tell you how many times in an hour they read this, but their meters had a memory that collected data. So we'll have 3 meter reading scenarios, 2 based on PLC plus radio for reserving or booking, and we'll have the technology looking at the serial interface. And besides that, the equipment that will allow the reading of meters will have a very robust securing system, and we will have some firewall also, and we'll have a very sound, strict system operator control. There will not be access to the network. And one other recommendation from our cybersecurity expert was that we need to switch to eSIM security if we would use the cell lines, the mobile lines, as a channel. So this will not be like a revolution, but this will be a gradual revolution. And if the local embedders or manufacturers will write some softwares for them, they will have a big national sandbox where they would be able to test technologies, for which we have approaches and requests from Romania in order to understand whether they can repeat this experience, to understand what they can take over from us. So we will do our side, then the other parts will do the part with the permission of the mobile communication operators and with the gas supply and water supply. By this will be done in time, and I think we will have an advanced infrastructure. Well, I believe that your response was like the Socrates. You both are right. I just hope that in the end we will have some more time to debate, more to discuss more on this subject. Now I'd like to come back to Mr. Petra. You've actually discussed and presented that smart meters allow real-time monitoring and reading of meters of indications. And most of these indications or these connections, customers are with Premier Energy. Well, if we think about this project and the further pilot project, will this help you manage the situation in the context when where most of the renewables are concentrated with Premier Energy? Where smart meters are part of the smart grids, and we understood, I think, this even this first part of this day. And when we talk about smart meters, we focus a lot on data reading, because even if we look at our subject that we discussed today, the data reading is not only about reading the indications from the meters. When we talk about smart meters and though the renewable energy producers, they are obliged according to the law enforced to install individually on their own those meters. Even the customers, even if it sounds strange, they will need to install individually these meters. I understood that we talk about positive elements and real situation. So we've obliged the customers, according to the last amendments, to install smart meters with registration per intervals, but without remote transmission. And I wonder why did the ministry allowed this? I tried to persuade them, but they did not get it till the end. If we talk about the other meters, we've discussed with the LECU, we have a pilot project conducted within the company so that you do not think that we do not pay attention to what the other colleagues in Moldova, even smaller colleagues. Via the smart meter except for the indications of the meters according to the law on the grid, we send some other indications, power values of the current reactive powers, and this somehow has reduced from the burden of investments in this sense, because a solution that was the solution implemented in the past was quite costly. So now we have the possibility to implement these values besides this head-on system and data which are sent through SCADA and later on sent to the transportation system operator. That's why this element becomes a complex one. It's an element that sends a lot of information, this meter, and it's important for this information to be sent in real time in order to be processed, to be used in operation, and to be digested, to be processed, because we might have a lot of information but not understand how to use this. Thank you very much. We were saying that we discussed good and bad things, the realities as per se. Well, Mr. Chigula, within the Green City Lab, we have a MES system, energy management system, which has currently more than 5,000 institutions included, and this monitors the consumption of water, gas, electricity, thermal energy consumption. Honestly, there are some gaps in the information provided by Red Note, but that's not your fault. These are due to the human factor and other issues, but at the same time, this would imply some support or investment in terms of billing technology. Is Red Nord prepared for this change? Or in this pilot project, what's the number of meters that will be installed or to be installed on the territory that you are covering? And is it to ensure your first step to get ready for the digitalization itself at a larger scale? Well, thank you for your question. Energy billing is actually related on the supplier, not on Red Nord. But when we talk about data management, the management of data from the field, when we talk about meter, modem, well, actually we focused on the first phase, meter, transmission and modem, and that's all. But actually the process is quite vast and the issue is larger. It's not the initial reading. For the initial reading, the things are clear. There is the technology. We know how things work. We know the pros and cons, the strengths and weaknesses of every technology, which are the disadvantages. But when we talk about data processing, that's actually the issue. Collection of big volumes of data is not useful. When sometimes it gets confused, it disturbs and process and makes very complex the process of data use and processing. When we talk about Red Nord, when we talk about this 15,000 meters, and obviously in this sense, we will impose step-by-step solving of issues, including collecting data from the ground, sending them to the supplier, billing, and so on. And in that sense, we really need to work a lot. As of today, we do have some pilot projects which are ongoing. Maybe to go more in detail, the colleagues are very trustful that they have some data system which work very well. Yeah, mostly that's the case, but till these are not tested on the ground, we cannot say that this technology is viable on the market, because every time we have some technical issues during the process, and these indeed have to be tested in the field. From our previous experience, we've tested several pilot projects. Some have been successful, some less successful. But if we want to focus on safe technologies coming from outside the country, then they are costly, and we have this the decrease in the benefit. But if we focus on the local development of technologies, we would need to give some more time to the developers and technology promoters to develop, to find out more about the subject, and to work more. We've obviously said, and we say all the time, that every implementation of pilot project, every innovation is an opportunity, not a challenge. Yes, we do believe so, even though there is a lot of issues appearing during the implementation of a pilot. We still choose to do that because we allow the soft developers, equipment developers to grow. Or the idea is whether we let them locals grow or we outsource, we take technology from outside. That's why we would like to focus on our local hardware and software developers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Georgi, I'm coming back to you because you mentioned the heated discussions that you had previously, and then we discussed with Mr. Mihailov at Socrates. So, starting from the ideas mentioned by the representatives of operators, because it's like when you are a student and you are trying to get your first job, you need experience. But where could you get this experience if no one gives you any chances, nobody trusts you? Do we feel any opening from openness from the authorities, from operators? Because these technologies are created, promoted by our companies. Could they be implemented on the local market or not? Yes, of course, especially that we have the gentleman from ADD who is has been implementing this for several years, and they have been successful. Now, indeed, there's openness. There are opportunities for us. There's an opportunity because we have 35 or 30%, 30,000 meters, 3% of the market. So there's openness. We just need to have this made in Moldova product, because in that discussions we were saying that indeed there are modules that have issues, but this can be 2 out of 1,000. So we need to find the suppliers, connect with them so that they have the maintenance. If we are able to produce this in Moldova, and we discuss with Aleku and Ruslan, who are more experienced, we'll be able to have maintenance, and the product will be made here, and I think everyone will be happy. Thank you. Mr. Mikhailov would like to add something. In order not to have surprises along the way, if we are discussing about electricity, because whether we want it or not, I ended up in this field because I come from telecom, and this reminded me of the hierarchical structure in mobile phones, because they are very similar. For simple consumer, they know they have a meter that has some figures there. There are some components that are disconnected if there are issues, but not many people know more. But now we have a lot of communication channels, YouTube, TV shows, and children even know that we have photovoltaic systems and so on. Many things that people are trying to look at in a different way. When mobile phones appeared in Moldova, they knew that they would pay a large sum for the phone, and then they would have the subscription, but they could speak on the phone. But that people maybe would not have electricity, and the operator was a French one that invested largely. Then the signal was disturbed, and that generation of telecom is still used, but it will probably be replaced, because the mobile phone that I have now has processor that is more powerful than the computers that were in the 90s. Now in the phone you have a camera, TV, everything that you want. And if we are discussing about industrial technologies, about automatization, and we are discussing about automatics not only in energy but also in gas, we have this hazard of explosion. When we have these gas pipes, we saw that there was an explosion in Russia, and a piece of an apartment building fell down. So we need something that functions very well. And my colleague said that a small percentage could not work. Well, this should be detected when it is packaged to be sent to the user, because each company has a post-production lab. These are tested in a fridge, in an oven, depending on the bandwidth of the temperature that they should be working in. And in my experience with the railway company or Mold Electrica, we understand that if they are not meeting some standards, the products will not be accepted by the buyer, because we have protection for vibration, protection if an electricity line, power line falls, and the equipment will work inside just like outside. And maybe there's a system saying that the temperature in the transformer is very high. If this doesn't work, it can catch fire. And we are discussing about these technologies for remote or large distance transmission of data. This could be used for parking spaces, for example. And if it shows you that there are 5 parking lots or parking spaces available, but you only have 2, you can lose some time. And if it shows you that it's 128 volts, but it actually is 268, this is very bad. And we need to understand very well that the equipment that will be used in these advanced networks will be subjected to very strict requirements. We've discussed about cybersecurity, and the SET secretary mentioned them in the presentation. We can tell you that we can see this every day. People detect where systems are and they attack those systems. We have electoral periods and so on. And we'll need to cope with this because there's many of us. Thank you very much. And now, in the end, I would like to ask you to tell us in 2, 3 words something that maybe you didn't manage to say, and tell us, are we ready or not to have remote smart meter reading in Moldova? And because you mentioned that this pilot project from UNDP covers only 3%. What is the target for 2030? What is your opinion, taking into consideration political factors and other factors that we all know very well? Mr. Rosan, yes, first of all, if you are discussing about smart metering for electricity, I think that we don't have control over this so far. This is in the future. But probably with enough funding by 2030, we can implement 100% of smart meters for electricity. I would like to add that smart metering for water is as important as smart meters for electricity. And even when we are discussing about energy efficiency, the cost for water supply is related to electricity. Unfortunately, in Moldova, we have approximately 40–50% of losses. There are localities that have even 60% losses, and these losses are automatically related to losses in electricity. Tens of millions of lei and a lot of electricity is wasted on non-revenue water. And if we were to use smart meters for water, which could reduce significantly these losses for water, we automatically become more energy efficient. Besides, we save water, which is also a very important source for life. And coming back to the mention regarding 2016, unfortunately at that time we didn't have the product. Now we do have the product. It's a local one. We have an European certificate for it. And recently we have one project in Italy for 110,000 electricity meters, which we will deliver in the next 18 months. And I hope that our meters, I mean the water meters, will also be used in the Republic of Moldova. And I would like to add that the Ministry of Energy is a big promoter for the digitalization of electricity, and maybe you should also pay attention to water meters because you are doing a great job in this area. The monitoring of water is in the portfolio of the Ministry of Regional Development and Infrastructure, but at the level of the EU, we have the promotion of the electrification of energy, and slowly investments for gas and others will decrease. This is why investments in energy is investment for the future. Thank you for what you said, because for me this is an area that is close to my heart. We should not forget that water resources are not renewable, and we should make the most to use it wisely. Are we ready to have remote smart meter reading in the Republic of Moldova? I would like to say that we have to. And I would like to explain in terms of electricity. We are discussing about billing, practically reading, remote reading is billing. We have the invoice, but we should not discuss about the functioning. We have had some tests in Chisinau, and the same electricity meters are measurements, real-time measurements. This means that we know what happens in different electricity hubs or nodes. And in the case of a blackout, we have been through this after the war started in Ukraine. This is very useful and can inform the timely reaction from distribution systems. So besides billing, because we are paying for what we are consuming, this is a tool for distribution operators, for transport operators, so that they can solve the issues that we are faced with. Today we have a source that we don't own, and we are counting on the European partners. I would say that we are ready, we have all the necessary tools, but we also are obliged to this because we don't have our resources. We need to know where are we buying from Ukraine, from Romania. Do we have a blackout? We have half a country without electricity. We need to know what measures to take, and we can do this by having measurements from strategic points and have a delineation. From my point of view, we are ready and we have to do this. What is the target for 2030? 100%? This is difficult to say. We should have the representative of the national agency, because we either put this as a burden for the consumer or are counting on UNDP. The question is, who is financing this? Maybe we should also ask the Germans, the Englishmen, the Italians to help us. We have an energy issue. We have the source in Ukraine, but we can't use it all the time. So we are using this to improve our situation. But this pilot project is meant to show that this is efficient. And this is meant to help us find new solutions here. Mr. Georgie, from your point of view, are we ready for remote reading, and what is the target for 2030? From my point of view, I think that we are ready. I don't know exactly what target to say for 2030. As Aleko said, we This depends on the regulatory agency in this area, but we need products in order to be able to achieve this goal. Yes, you know, about this smart meter reading, I have to make a parallel with the business. What's important is to identify solutions that are working and to scale it. The colleagues from Red Nord have a wide experience in different pilot projects. I see that colleagues from Premier Energy also have such pilot projects. They know how these technologies are working. What's left is to have a massive implementation of remote reading with everything related to data processing, software, and so on. And I think that by 2030, if we were to set some targets for the producers, consumers, net consumers, for household consumers, I think that we could have a figure of 60-70% that would be realistic if we put in effort. Mr. Patram, for everyone, it is clear that this is a need, it's not a trend. Everyone in Europe has started working on this and installing these meters. We, as a company that uses these benefits, we have smart remote reading for 13%. Besides the pilot that we are working on right now, this is more than a pilot project. This is a big step so that this is implemented widely in the Republic of Moldova. By 2030, the companies will need to put in a lot of operational support effort so that 100% of the meters have smart meters, because operationally we should double the number of persons that will be involved in such activities. But in terms of resources, I don't think this would be an issue to mobilize and to do this in a good way. I am the member of the team that gathers all statistics. From the experience in the last 6 months with the first batch of meters, we have reached the conclusion that using the resources of two operators, we can install 250,000 meters a year. Well, the producers can deliver 10 million, but we need time. There's other modernization that we need to do. By 2030, it is probably feasible, but if the national legislation aligns to the European one in time, and our colleagues have also mentioned the hope that we'll have funds. And if we are based on the EU directives and the experience of the countries that have been through this, we also have some experience because we're not like in African tribes. And if you are willing to keep up, because it's not in vain that people say that laziness is standing in the way of progress. And it also depends on the support from the state. What we have so far is okay. We are incentivized, we are even cheesed to do this. Thank you for these positive final remarks. I would like to ask whether the audience has any questions, because you have had the patience to listen to us so far. Do you have any questions for the participants? If not, I would like to thank you for coming and sharing inclusively the backstage discussions, because this is part of the challenges that we need to face, and we need to change things where we are. And we hope that we will reach these targets by 2030. Thank you very much.